Ready, set, go. What are you going to talk about today? Okay guys, so today, this video is so long overdue. This was supposed to be, I think, like a month before the Arnold, but there was just so much travel that we had going on, and then with the Arnold, there was just so much going on after, so we are April 1st, 1 month post-Arnold, and this video is coming out now. But basically, I had a lot of people asking me prior to the Arnold. If you hear Cosmo in the background, just ignore him. Prior to the Arnold, how come my name wasn't on the list? Why didn't I choose to do the Arnold? Did I apply? So I chose this year not to do the Arnold. It was definitely not an easy choice because I really wanted to do that show, especially after winning it last year. I wanted to go back and defend my title. That was actually my second time doing the Arnold. So I had done the Arnold my very first time in 2019, and I placed fourth. And I remember I was like over the moon about placing fourth. I thought it was the best thing in the world, and I was like just on top of the world that I had placed fourth at the Arnold next to, you know, all of these incredible athletes who I had looked up to all of my fitness journey so far. And then the next year in 2020, that was kind of the COVID era when all that stuff started. The Arnold actually got canceled, but I didn't apply that year. I had had my breast augmentation done, so I was off from the gym for a couple of months. I think it was like 2 months to recover, so it just wouldn't have given me enough time. So I didn't apply because I didn't want to take away the opportunity for someone else to be able to go. Knowing that I wouldn't be able to get ready in time for it and probably have to decline that invite. And then last year, since the timing actually lined up perfectly, it was pushed back to be in September, so it was 2 weeks before the Olympia, which actually ended up working out well. So I did decide to do it last year. Won it last year, which was incredible, so I can check that off my to-do list, one of my biggest dreams and goals. And then this year, of course, right after Olympia, my plan was I'm doing the Arnold, I'm doing Olympia, and that's my game plan for 2022. And then as things kind of settled down post-Olympia and you come off of that post-show high where you're like, yeah, I'm going to jump right back into it, I was looking at the timeline and we just realized that timing-wise, it probably was best for me to just cut my season there so I could just end that season, go into an off season, and then focus on improvements for Olympia this year. Just because my big goal this year obviously is to defend my Olympia title and be able to win the Olympia again. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that I am bringing a better package this year, not showing up the same. And with the timing of Olympia being in October last year and then the Arnold being reset back to its normal day of March, it just didn't really give me much time. I think it was like 4.5 months from Olympia to the Arnold. So I would have had a couple of weeks off to enjoy and then right back to peak right for the Arnold again. So I would have continued my prep straight from Olympia into the Arnold, which probably wouldn't have been the best for me personally. Some people look better when they do that and they can just prep for years straight. I'm not one of those people. Most people need an off season, need a break, mentally, physically, just for your body to reset and be fresh again for the next season. So for me, that was definitely the case. And looking at the timeline, Mark and I had decided that that was going to be best for me to not apply for the Arnold this year and sit it out. As much as I really wanted to do the Arnold, I knew it probably wasn't the best idea for me just because of the timeline of things. I could definitely have pushed to continue my prep to the Arnold. However, I would have been pretty tired mentally and physically, but obviously, I mean, we can push through that as athletes. It's just how would my body have looked? Would it have looked, good enough to defend that title and win again, or would I have come in less than my best? And obviously that's something that I didn't want to risk this year, having just won the Olympia. And I also wanted to do a lot of travel, seminars, workshops, be present at the shows, and just be an ambassador for the sport. So when you're in prep, a lot of that time that you have gets taken away because we have cardio, we have training, we have low energy with our diets and stuff like that. So I wanted to really prioritize my energy as much as I could into being the best ambassador for the sport that I could. So that was part of the decision on not doing the Arnold. So no, I did not apply. That's why my name was not on the list. And the way it works with the Arnold is it's an invite only. So you have to apply. I think even if you've won in previous years, you still have to apply. You don't just automatically get an invite. So I had decided that I wasn't doing it. And then I remember I got a call like a week before the deadline, like, hey, your name's not on the list. Like, are you going to do it? And I was like, I want to do it so bad. So I almost went through that whole mindset again of should I just push and try and do it? But I knew for me physically, I needed a break. I had been prepping for about 11 months already for the Olympia. So taking a break was definitely a good plan for me. I still got to go to the Arnold, got to watch an incredible production. As always, this was actually my first time being there just as a spectator, because I'd only been there in 2019 and 2021 when I was competing, and I had never been before just as a spectator to enjoy. So it was a lot of fun. I got to go to the booths, I got to see the expo, got to meet a ton of you guys there, and do the interviews for MPC News Online after, which was also a lot of fun. And just the stage was absolutely incredible. I love when they do prejudging on the expo stage. Same thing goes for Olympia. Personally, as an athlete, there's no feeling that compares to when you're on stage in front of an expo of thousands of people, and just like the expo energy is totally different than just the stage energy. So I love that, and hopefully Olympia is going to be on the expo again this year. I'm pretty sure it is, here in Vegas at the convention center, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And we're counting down. I think we're 8 months away from Olympia. So for this year's plans, a lot of people asked, am I competing this year? So obviously I didn't do the Arnold. That was my reasoning why, just knowing that I needed to prioritize to be able to bring my best for Olympia this year, and that meant taking an off season to come back fresh, mentally and physically, and just give my body a chance to reset. So health is always going to be number one priority, and I think that sometimes you have to take a step back from being a competitor in that mindset of like go and push and see, you know, what's going to be the best long term for you in terms of longevity in the sport and optimal success, not just on stage but off stage as well. So taking a break, definitely enjoying it. It's nice to have a little bit more freedom in my life. Of course, I still train, I still do cardio, I still meal prep, all that stuff. But it's just nice to have a bit more of I guess, freedom or flexibility in my schedule, especially with all the traveling that I've been doing, because there's been a lot of travel lately. So the plans for 2022, a lot of people ask, am I doing a warm-up show prior to Olympia? As of right now, I don't think so. I know Mark prefers that I just go straight into Olympia. So that's kind of what our game plan is. With the Olympia being in December again, we decided we're going to start prep, I think, in May. It'll be like 30 weeks out. I'm going to start my prep. Essentially, those first couple of weeks are going to be more so of like a recon phase, just getting back into a more strict routine of things. Generally, usually I do about 16 weeks of prep, but I find throughout the season I get better with a couple weeks in between the shows. So generally for me, around that 20-week point of prep, that's when I look my best, and that's when my conditioning, my lower half comes in. So usually that's kind of the game plan that we're aiming for. So this year we decided, let's just stretch that even longer so we have extra time just in case. I mean, things always happen. Life always throws unexpected things at you. So preparing for that is key. So we're planning to do, I think, 24 to 30 weeks of a prep to give us that extra buffer time in between. And that way I can be ready early is the game plan for Olympia. So most likely 99.9% not doing any warm-up shows. However, depends on how I feel, and if we decide that I want to get on stage for a warm-up show, whether that's for practice or anything, I'll keep you guys posted, of course, for that. But most likely not going to do a warm-up show, just going to go straight into Olympia. So from prior preps, I've learned, a lot of things over the years. In 2018, when I did my pro debut, I think I did 6 shows, and I ended up qualifying for Olympia, so I pushed it to continue to do Olympia. And I only had, I think, a month or 2 off before I went back to my season, and I did a show in Colombia in February, then I had the Arnold in March, and then I did Pittsburgh, New York, Toronto, and then Olympia. So it was a lot of shows without having an off season in between, and my body just looked tired. I didn't look my best. So that's why I knew this year that if I had have continued on to prep like that, I wouldn't have been at my best for the Arnold or for the Olympia, which obviously is not going to be conducive to what I'm trying to do this year and what my goals are to bring. So that was one of the reasons why I knew that my body responds best with an off season, and generally a longer off season if that's possible. The nice thing is that I don't have to qualify for Olympia, so I don't have to do any shows, and I don't have to have that stress of getting the Olympia qualification. I can just go straight into it. And then the focus for this year's improvements to make, just focusing on balance, symmetry, keeping my waist as tight as possible, and conditioning this year. So really nailing my conditioning that first show, which generally is hard for me. Usually I get better as I continue on. So one thing that Mark decided that he wanted to do, he brought up, was he wanted us to pick a show that was, I think, 6... Ooh, I just knocked the camera. Earthquake. That was, I think, 6 or 8 weeks out from the Olympia. and we're going to plan to peak for that show as if I'm competing in a show. Mentally, I'm obviously going to be in it as if I'm competing. I know that I'm not actually doing that show. It's more so just for a mock peak. So that way we can see how I look if I'm ready, you know, like 6 weeks early, and then plan to be peaking towards the Olympia, which is going to be 6 weeks later. Similar to how I had done, you know, in my seasons prior, where I might do a show in August or something like that, and then the Olympia isn't until October. So I find that works best for me. So I think we're going to do a peak mock a couple times, and obviously I'll keep you guys posted on that as if we're competing, but we're not actually going to be competing. And then we'll just see kind of what looks best on me as we go. That way we can fine tune and tweak things. But really the conditioning is the number one thing that my goal is this year. So being ready early, just so I don't have to worry about conditioning not being on. Last year at Tampa, I had started my prep, I think it was about 16 weeks out. And everything was running along smoothly. And generally for me, what happens is I usually start dropping pretty fast at the beginning, and my shape starts to come in more as I tighten up. My waist starts to come in. And then I look like I'm almost ahead at that 7 week out mark. And then once we get past that, it's almost like if I get too comfortable there thinking that I'm ahead, I start to fall behind a little bit, and then I'm rushing to catch up. So now that I know, I mean, from a bunch of prior preps that that's what's happened, we just know that when we think that I'm ahead, don't slow down there, just keep going, because if not, we're going to be behind a little bit later. So the goal is to be ready around 4 to 6 weeks out, so we have those extra 4 to 6 weeks to reduce cardio, increase food, and just relax and maintain going into the show, not having to stress about not being ready or anything like that. And this way I can take advantage of more content, more photo shoots, and all that kind of fun stuff, you know, feeling like I'm ready and where I need to be, versus, I don't know what that was. Versus the stress of feeling like you're not ready. There's nothing worse in a prep than feeling like you're not where you need to be. Tampa last year, that's kind of how I felt when I was, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks out. I knew that I was a little bit behind compared to how I usually look. However, I also know that my first show of the season is always not my best conditioning. But just knowing mentally that I wasn't where I wanted to be was stressful. And then going into the show, knowing that I already committed to doing the show, I didn't want to pull out of the show last minute. But knowing that I wasn't fully ready definitely messes with your confidence and mental, the aspect when you're on stage, just because you're not feeling it if you know you're not ready. And then, you know, I did Nashville 2 weeks later. I knew I was better there, but I still wasn't at my best. So when I did the Arnold last year, I definitely felt better. And then at Olympia was my all-time favorite look, and I knew that I was ready at Olympia. So the difference between feeling like you're not where you need to be and you're not ready, and almost like not wanting to go on stage, versus Olympia, I was just so excited to hurry up and get on stage, because I remember it was like Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm like, I just wish it would hurry up already, because I can't wait to get on stage. I know that I'm so ready, and I'm bringing such an improved package. So that's my goal for this year. I want to bring a package that I know is going to be my all-time best. And my goal is to step on that stage and have everyone be like, wow, how did she improve that much from last year? So you guys heard it here first, and you can hold me to that. That's my goal for this year. No real like huge changes to my physique, because I'm not going to fix what's not broken. You know, my suit is going to be the same color, maybe some slight changes. Margaret from Toxic Angels always knows how to make those little tweaks to everything. She does an amazing job with my suit. So my suit's going to be the same. My hair, the curls aren't going anywhere. That's going to be the same. Protan's going to do my tan, so it's the same color, all that kind of stuff. Muscularity-wise, I'm not planning on adding any more muscle. It's really just coming down to conditioning, shape, and balance. And that's really what the focus is for bikini, is that shape, symmetry, and balance. So that's my biggest focus for this year, along with nailing my stage presence. So I'm excited for that, because I think this year coming into the Olympia, coming off that win, knowing that I'm the defending champ, I guess you would say, I think that my confidence level will be a lot higher this year, just knowing that this is going to be my year to just beat myself. I don't have to beat anyone else. All I have to do is show up and beat myself. So I think that that's, I mean, it can be stressful, because I know that I have to level up so much more, but I also think that it's a lot less stress and pressure than having to qualify for the Olympia and having that stress of being, you know, second place and everyone expecting you to level up to first place. Of course, there's always that pressure of people waiting to see you fall, but we're not going to pay attention to that anyways. I'm just focusing on the pressure of I only have to beat myself. So I'm really only in competition against myself this year, which is nice. And of course, I know all the other girls are going to look absolutely incredible because everyone else is climbing up that mountaintop trying to get there as well. But I know that this is going to be my best year yet, so I'm super excited for that, especially having a long off season. I know I'm going to look fresh and at my best. So the plan is to take you guys along throughout my prep. As we start, we're going to start really early, so I don't know how soon I'm going to start that series of Towards the Olympia. I might do like a once a month vlog for my Olympia prep at the beginning, since we're going to start like 6 months out. And then obviously as we get closer, probably weekly vlogs at that point. So if that's when you guys want to see. I know I had a couple people comment below. Feel free to comment below if there's certain things you want to see in these vlogs, like posing, check-ins, food, training, cardio, all that kind of stuff. Anything else you guys want to see, let me know. But that's the plan for 2022 season. Only Olympia is on the radar for this year, and prep starts, today's April 1st. So prep starts next month, I believe. I actually have the date, hold on. I have a countdown in my calendar right now, so 30 weeks out is going to be May 21st. So that's actually LA Fit Expo. I will be there that weekend. So right after that weekend, once I get home, May 23rd, prep starts for the Olympia. So stay tuned for that.